pollination.
So then what's the difference between the definition of self-pollination and definition of pollination?
See, pollination is same, but there are two types of pollination. Pollination is just the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma.
Okay, so they did not mention here which plant it is.
Yeah, which flower to which. Okay. So transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma. Only this process is called as pollination. Okay. Then we just told about self-pollination. Self-pollination, it means transfer of pollen grains. Self-pollination, it is the transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower to stigma of same flower. The transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower to stigma of same flower. Okay. Like just we did in that case of hibiscus. So in the case of hibiscus, we saw that the self-pollination is occurring. Over there, cross-pollination can also occur, but there are more chances of self-pollination. So what is cross-pollination? Transfer of pollen grains yes, Medha Ansini, just wait for a minute, beta. Just wait. Right. So cross-pollination is the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower. So it can happen to stigma of same flower. So stigma of another flower, not same. That is your cross-pollination. Okay. Now the other flower, it can be on the same plant or it can even be on the different plant. Different plant means it can be the same like in the case of mustard or papaya, it can be a different plant. So transfer of pollen grains from the stigma of one flower to the anther of one flower to the stigma of the other. So that is your cross-pollination. Okay. So these are the two methods of pollination. Then the last
example for cross-pollination.
Yeah.
Example for cross-pollination.
Examples of cross-pollination. Okay, instead of examples, you just you can learn like this. Suppose here you have a flower. This is the branch. This is the main stem. Again, you have a branch. Again, branch. Suppose on this branch you have some flower. Okay. Let me make. Suppose if you have a flower over here, another flower over here, So maybe if there is a transfer of pollen grains from this flower to this, that is a cross-pollination.
Okay, sir.
Okay, or it can be generally it happens in the case of unisexual flowers. Generally, in the case of unisexual flower, we find cross pollination, but it can also happen in the bisexual flowers also. Then the next thing we were discussing over here, that was fertilization process. So, Medha Ansini, can you tell what is fertilization?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
The fusion of both male and female gamete is called fertilization.
Okay, fusion of male and female gamete. So, where does it happen in the case of flower? Where does fertilization occur?
Sir, in ovum, ovaries,
In the,
ovaries.
yeah, in the ovary. Fertilization process, it occurs in the ovaries. So, what is fertilization? Fertilization is the fusion of male and female gametes. And it occurs in ovary. What is the female gamete?
Sir, carpel.
It is not.
Sir, you're on mute.
See, so it is fertilization, it occurs in the ovary. It occurs in ovary. Fusion of male and gametes, it occurs in the ovary. Now, what are the another very important question comes from the board point of view is that what are the post-fertilization events? So, what are post-fertilization events? That means after fertilization, what happens? So we will see post-fertilization events. What were the post-fertilization events? What happens when the ovule is fertilized? We saw that the ovule is fertilized by the pollen grain, by the nucleus of the pollen grain, which develops a pollen tube and reaches the ovules. So over there, your pollen tube is fertilized. So what are the post-fertilization events? What are the events after fertilization? What happens after the fertilization has ended up? So when the fertilization has ended up, then there is no need, when the fertilization has occurred, then there is no need of the petals, as petals are there to attract the insects, right? Petals are there for the scent. So therefore, there is no need of petals since fertilization is over. So the very first thing that happens is that petals shed off. All the petals, they shed off. Petals fall off the flower. Then what happens to the ovules? See, instead of the ovules, the zygote is formed. Now, here, fusion of male and female gamete is called fertilization, and in this process, zygote is formed. A single cell, that is zygote, is formed over here. Fusion of male and female gamete to form the zygote. So, a single cell zygote is formed over here in the case of fertilization. So, what happens to the ovules after the fertilization? After fertilization, ovules develop into seeds. Ovules develop into seeds. And the ovary which was there, ovary ripens to fruit. Okay. Or we can say that the ovary develops to form fruit. Petals shed off, ovules develop into seeds, ovary develop to form the fruits. Understood this? What all things happen? These are the post-fertilization events. When the fertilization is over, so there is no need of petals, therefore petals shed off. All the ovules which were there, they have been fertilized and hence seeds are formed. Okay. Then the ovary which was there, it develops to form the fruits. Pulpy substances get collected over there and hence it develops into the fruit. So these are some of the post-fertilization events occurring in the flower. So everyone has understood about the pollination and fertilization in the case of flower, sexual reproduction in flower. Okay,
Yes, sir.
just see it from the beginning. We will just have a quick revision of what happens in the case of sexual reproduction in the case of flowers. So up to now, we starting from here again, just with a quick revision of the sexual mode of reproduction. So in the sexual mode of reproduction, we saw that the two individuals are required. A male is required and a female is required. So a male gamete and a female gamete, they fuse together to form the zygote. We also call here male gamete as haploid. Male gamete is haploid. Female gamete is also haploid as they carry only half the number of the chromosomes. And the zygote is a diploid organism. 2N. Zygote is diploid, which carries 2N number of chromosomes. It is haploid. Gametes are haploid. They carry only N number of chromosomes. Then the zygote can develop into new individuals. Okay, whatever zygote is formed. The zygote will have the characteristics of both male and the female. Then sexual reproduction in the flowering plants, we saw two types of flowers, unisexual flowers and the bisexual flowers. Okay. Unisexual flowers, they bear only one sex type of chromosome. They bear only sex type of organs on them. Like they can be either male flower or they can bear only female flower. So such are unisexual flower. You also have a bisexual flower, that means the flowers which bear both male and female parts. Flowers that bear both male and female parts, they are bisexual. So then the next one here, we saw this in the case of plant. The anther and filament together, they are called as the pistil, which is the male organ. And Manan,
Yes,
Manan,
sir.
what do we call all the female parts of a flower together?
Carpel.
Carpel. And what are the different structures in the carpel?
Style, stigma, ovary.
Yeah, style, stigma, and ovary. They form the carpel.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I have a question regarding this because our biology teacher told us that carpel and pistil are the same thing, the female reproductive part of the flower, and pistil is
Mm.
just a collection of carpels.
Okay. So what name is given to these female parts?
Yes, sir. Here it's carpel, but then she said pistil and carpel are the same thing, so you can either call the female reproductive part
Yes, sir,
pistil.
actually, sir. Carpel and pistil are the same things, and in here, anther and filament together form the stamen, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, right. I think you are right. Okay, Tony, both of them, carpel and pistil are same. They are called as the stamen.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Pistil is just the
And
other name for the
yeah,
female
yeah.
reproductive part.
Actually, I remember those words. This is called as androecium. It is also called as androecium. Okay. And the female part is called as gynoecium. This is another word. To differentiate it better, we call it as androecium and gynoecium. Right? Now here we have a stigma, style, and ovary. So how does fertilization occur? That the anther contains the pollen grains and ovary contains the ovules. The pollen grains from the anther, they are dispersed off into the air and they reach the stigma by the agents of pollination. So here we have a small point about the agents of pollination. What are the different agents of pollination?
Water,
So the
wind,
insects.
insects.
Agents of pollination which help in pollination. So agents of pollination, they can be wind, water, insects, birds. They are the agents of pollination, right? Okay. Now let's move to the, since this was the flower part, it's over. Now we move towards the sexual reproduction in the case of human beings or reproduction in the case of human being. So in the case of human being, we observe the male and the female. In the case of male, the gametes, they are called as sperm cells, or sperms are the gametes. They are the male gametes. In the case of female, ova is the, or ovum. Ovum is the female gamete. So sperms are called as the male gametes. Ovum is called as the female gametes, right? And sperms, they are produced. Let us see the male reproductive system. And what are the different structures, how the sperms are produced. And one thing I wanted to ask, has everyone does the homework? Done the homework?
Sir, I was absent due to exams, sir, for a few days, so I don't know, sir, which homework it was, sir, exactly.
Okay. Anyone else who has done the homework?
Sir, is it the flower diagram?
Yeah, it was the flower diagram.
I did, sir.
Mehak has done. Anyone else?
So, what was the homework? Nothing was attached in the group.
Okay, in the group it was not attached, but in the class I told you that it is the you have to draw the diagram of flower.
Yeah, that is done, sir.
That is done.
In the class only, I have completed.
Okay. So let's see the
That even I
reproductive
have done, sir.
system. Okay. So everyone should be able to draw the diagram, label all the parts. So let's see the diagram. And you see the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. See here. In the male reproductive system, the main reproductive organ of the male is the testes. So testes are the main reproductive organs of the male. Here the production of the sperms start. So in the testes, there is production of sperms. So production of sperms is there in the testes. Sperms, they are produced in the testes and stored temporarily in the scrotum. The scrotum is the area just near the testes. It is a small bag-like structure where the sperms are stored temporarily. It also provides a proper temperature for the testes to manufacture the sperms. So sperms are produced at a proper temperature which is provided by the scrotum. Okay. In the testes also play an important role, or they also produce the hormone testosterone. So testes produce the hormone testosterone which control the male sex characteristics. It includes the production of the sperms, and this process of the production of sperms, release of the testosterone, it starts at the age of 13 to 14 years in male. So from this 13 to 14 years, there are certain changes which are brought about in the male, which includes the production of the sperms. So production of the sperms, it starts at the age of 13 to 14. Before that, there are no sperms in the case of male. Now, when the sperms are produced, they are stored temporarily in this scrotum, and they travel through the vas deferens. Through the vas deferens, they travel in between. They are connected with seminal vesicles and the prostate glands. The seminal vesicles and the prostate glands, seminal vesicles, they contain the nutritive medium, or they secrete nutritive medium, or secrete nutritive medium. They secrete nutritive medium for the sperm cells. Since the sperm cells, they should live for some time till the fertilization process is completed. So up to that time, the cells should be alive. For the cells of sperm cells to be alive, the seminal vesicles provide the nutrients. Okay, so those nutrients, they are provided by the seminal vesicles. Then in between, you also have the prostate glands. The prostate glands, they release a fluid material. They provide a fluid in which help in the movement of the sperms, so that the sperms can move easily. The movement of the sperms it is provided by the prostate glands. Okay. So understood what all the different organs are doing here, starting with the scrotum, which starts with the which provides a proper temperature for the manufacture of the sperms in the testes. So sperms are manufactured in the testes. The role of the scrotum is providing a proper temperature. Once the sperms are manufactured, then once the sperms are produced, they can travel through the vas deferens, through the urethra, through the ureter, along with the along with the urethra, they travel and they can be ejected out of the body. So the common pore or the common passage of this is the common pore for the passage of urine as well as the sperm cells. Both the urine and the sperm cells, they pass through the common passage. Okay. When the sperm cells, they reach these seminal vesicles and the prostate glands. So see, the secretions of the both seminal vesicles and the prostate glands, they are mixed up together. They are released so that they provide some nutritive medium for the sperm cells to survive. The prostate provide a fluid in which the sperm cells can live for some time. They provide it mobility so that the sperm cells can move easily. So during the mating process or copulation, the sperm cells, they are released through the urethra. Now they are released through the urethra in the vagina of the female. Let us see the female reproductive system now, and then we'll see how does the fertilization process occur. The female reproductive system, it includes a pair of ovary. In the male, we saw that there are a pair of testes. In the case of female, there are a pair of ovary. There are pair of ovary and which are connected to the uterus with the fallopian tube. Ovary are the main reproductive organs of the female. The work of the ovary is the release of ova. They release ova or ovum. Ovary female contain by birth. By birth, female contains thousands of ovum. Okay, so it is unlike the male. In the case of male, the production of sperms are not there by birth. Okay, sperms are not there by birth, but the sperms, they are produced during the lifetime from starting with the age of 13 to 14 years. Before that, there are no sperms. But in the case of female, there are about thousands of ova by the birth. So female has that ova by birth, and during the life cycle, they are also produced. When the female grows up to the age of 11 to 12 years, when the female is about 11 to 12 years, so then during that time, release of ova starts. This is the difference. In the case of male, the production of the sperm start, but in the case of female, release of ova or ovum starts. So here, ovum is released. Here, one ovum is released from the ovary over here. So the ovum is released from either ovary. One ovum will be released, which stays over there. It is captured by the fimbriae. These structures, they are called as the fimbriae. Okay. These fimbriae, they capture the ovum and the ovum remains here for some time. Okay. So how much time does the ovum remain here?
14 days.
14 days or 28 days?
Right, sir, 28 days.
Okay. So the ovum remains over here. Then this ova is to be fertilized. When the ova is fertilized, then the formation of zygote will be there, and then after that there will be the birth of a young. Okay. So now we'll understand. So everyone has understood about the female reproductive system.
Yes.
Okay. So see, the female reproductive system we have understood. Now in the bottom part of the female reproductive system, this outer opening, that is the vagina, which serves as the entry point. This is the entry of, or this is the passage where the sperms are released. All the sperms, they are released into the vagina. Sperms are released in the vagina, and these sperms, they travel through the cervix, which is the opening of the uterus. So this is your uterus, which is a bag-like structure. Uterus is a bag-like structure. Sperms pass through the uterus, through the cervix, which is the opening of the uterus. So cervix is the opening of uterus. Okay. Through the cervix, the sperms pass into the uterus, and from the uterus through the fallopian tube, they try to reach the ovum. Okay. So everyone has understood about this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in a single attempt, around 10,000s or millions of sperms are released into the vagina. So there are too many sperms which are released into the vagina, and even if a single sperm cell is able to reach the uterus, even if a single sperm cell reaches the uterus, reaches the ovum, so it can fertilize the ovum. Okay. So what is uterus?
It is a
Manan,
bag-like structure. Oh, okay.
Manan, what is uterus?
It is a bag-like structure.
It is a bag-like structure, and its role is to hold the young one. Its role is to hold the embryo when the fetus is developing. So the development of the fetus, it takes place inside the uterus. It is the uterus where the development of the fetus takes place.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, sperms enter through the cervix, and from here they pass through the fallopian tube, try to reach the ovum. The ovum is non-motile. Ovum cannot move out from its place. Ovum does not move from its place. Ovum does not move from ovary to the other places. It is the sperm cell which reaches the ovum, fertilizes the ovum. Fertilizing the ovum means the nuclear material of the sperm cell and the nuclear material of the ovum cell, they are mixed up together. Okay. If you observe the nuclear material, when I say the nuclear material, so for this we observe the sperm cell. How does the sperm cell look like? If you observe a sperm cell, it is a long structure like this, which has a head and a middle portion along with the tail. Okay. So this is somewhat how uh, it has the mitochondria over here, mitochondria and the nuclear material in its head. So in the head portion, the sperm cell has the mitochondria and the nuclear material. The tail portion, it helps the sperm cell to swim in the nutritive medium and reach up to the ovum.
Sir, can you tell the name of the fluid, sir, in which it passes by?
What fluid we call it? Anyone who who remembers the name? It was the fluid secreted by the prostate gland. Okay, I will let you know if I come to remember this. I will let you know what fluid is that.
Sir, is it amniotic fluid by any chance? I'm not sure, but
No, that's not the amniotic fluid. Amniotic fluid is the fluid in which the fetus is wrapped, which is around the
yes.
fetus. That is the amniotic fluid.
Acha, okay, sir, I got confused.
That
But
is what we call as like the water, right, sir? When the water
Yeah,
breaks or something.
yeah. So that is amniotic fluid is different.
okay, sir.
Okay, so I'll let you know. So with these sperm cells, when the sperm cells enters into the fallopian tube, it meets the ovum and the ovum is fertilized. Now there are two things that can happen. Either the ovum is fertilized or it is not fertilized. If the ovum is not fertilized, suppose the ovum is not fertilized, so what will happen? If the ovum is fertilized, see, if ovum is fertilized, so there will be formation of zygote. If ovum is fertilized, then zygote is formed. Then zygote will be formed if ovum is fertilized. So that zygote is again a unicellular organism, and that zygote it develops slowly into a ball of cells or a number of cells. So this is not the exact diagram, but to give you an idea, suppose this is the zygote, that is a single cell which has been formed. So this zygote, first it divides into two cells. Okay, and those two cells they remain together only. Then these two cells they divide into four cells. Then these four cells they divide into eight cells. So in this way, the division process continues and slowly, the zygote forms a ball of cells. Okay? It develops into a ball of cells. Okay. When the ball of cells is formed, as we know that cells require a nutrition, right? All the cells require nutrition.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when a ball of cells has been formed, they also require their nutrition for their survival. So these ball of cells, they move towards the uterus. So after the fertilization process from here, when the zygote is formed, the zygote moves back towards the uterus. Okay. When it reaches the uterus, so the walls of the uterus, they are richly supplied with the blood vessels. Okay. These walls, they are called as the endometrium walls of the uterus. They are richly supplied with the blood vessels and they capture that ball of cells. So those ball of cells, they are captured by the uterus. The uterus keeps it and it is implanted into the uterus. So after this, when the ball of cells is formed, the next important process is implantation. Okay. So implantation means fixing of this embryo in the uterus. The fixing of the embryo into the uterus is called as implantation. Okay. Now when it is implanted, then all the nutrient requirement or all the requirements of the embryo, it is taken care by the female body. The female body provides all the necessary requirements of this embryo through a tissue called placenta. So you have a tissue called placenta in the female body which takes care of all the nutrient requirements of the embryo. So here you have the formation of the embryo. The embryo develops in the uterus So everyone has understood about this implantation process.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once the implantation is completed, the embryo develops and it takes around roughly a period of 9 months. Roughly a period of 9 months is taken over for the or nearly around 50 weeks, you can say 50, uh, 40 to 40, 44 to 45 weeks is taken over, what we say, maybe near about 50 weeks maximum that can be there. So that is the week time which is taken up by the embryo to develop. When the embryo develops completely inside the uterus, which you say nearly 9 months, it takes for the embryo to develop. So during that, once its development is completed, then the uterus walls, they start contracting, and the contraction of the uterus walls, it causes pressure on the embryo and hence release of the embryo through the cervix. Okay. So after the 9 months process is completed, the embryo has developed. So it is the uterus walls, they start paining. They start with the pain. They contract they contract too much, and hence causing the embryo to be moved out of the cervix. So through the cervix, your newborn embryo, it comes out, or newborn fetus, new baby is born through the fetus. Okay. So now another thing, when once the fertilization is completed, once the fertilization process has started, once fertilization is done, so no more fertilization can occur. There will not be any release of ovum there. Okay, there will not
Yes.
be any release of ovum unless the fertilization process has been completed. Till the baby is born. When the baby is born, after that the fertilization process can occur again. So after that, the ovulation, that is the release of ovumes, can occur, but before that, there is no release of ovum. So this was one case which we saw. If the fertilization occurs, okay, if the fertilization occurs, then there will be release. Then there will be formation of embryo, and that embryo will develop into a new young one within a period of 9 months. Now here we observe that this type of here, fertilization is taking place inside the female body. Such a fertilization which takes place inside the female body is called as internal fertilization. Okay. In some organisms, the fertilization takes place outside the body. So that fertilization which takes place outside the body is called as external fertilization. So any examples where we observe that fertilization takes place outside the female body?
The frog.
Eggs.
Which one? Frogs?
Yes, sir. Frog eggs, sir. Yes.
Okay, frog eggs and fishes also. Some of the
Yes.
fishes, some of the frogs, they release their sperm cells and the ovum in water. Okay, so where they fertilize outside the body, they develop outside the body. So fertilization process is completed outside the body, hence such a process is an external fertilization.
Sir, I have
Okay.
a doubt, sir.
Yes.
Sir, if in external fertilization, when the eggs are in the water, sir, how do the sperms know where they have to go first in search of eggs?
Okay. So how do you know? How do they know where they have to go? If you observe the case of flower, right? The case of
Yes, sir.
flower over here, we observe that the pollen grains, they grow towards the ovules. So how do the pollen grains know that they have to travel towards the ovule downward?
That is chemicals, right, sir? Chemicals are released.
Chemicals are released and we call that as chemotropism.
Chemotropism, yes, sir.
Okay. So in the similar way, there is something like that also which happens with the case of eggs and the ovules. A similar
Yeah.
process. Okay. So like here, the growth of the pollen tube is towards the ovule is because of certain chemicals, and such a growth is called as chemotropism.
Yes, sir.
So similar thing over there also happens. So now this process is completed, that a newborn baby will be born through the cervix. Now, what if the fertilization does not occur? If ovum is not fertilized, so what will happen if ovum is not fertilized?
The thick lining of the uterus wall, it will shed.
Yeah, as the uterus has prepared for capturing the ovum, for capturing the embryo, since a uterus prepares itself to capture the developing embryo which was to come through the fallopian tube. So therefore uterus wall, it prepares itself, they get richly supplied with the blood vessels. Okay, and if there is no fertilization, so uterus walls, they burst out. The walls of the uterus, or the internal lining, that is the endometrium walls of the uterus, they burst out, releasing blood. So blood along with the ovum, it moves out of the, it moves through the cervix and the vagina. This process is called as menstruation. So if ovum is not fertilized, there will be menstruation. That is the endometrium walls. So in the process of menstruation, endometrium walls of the uterus, endometrium walls of uterus burst out, releasing ovum, sorry, burst out, releasing blood. They move out along with ovum. So a blood moves out through the vagina along with the blood. This is called as menstruation. Now it continues for a duration of around 4 to 7 years, 4 to 7 days. And after that, once the menstruation process is completed, then there is a release of another ova. So there is release of another ovum. Another ovum is released out through the ovary. That ovum which is released out through the ovary over here, you see another ovum will be released, and again the uterus walls will prepare themselves. Right? So again the uterus walls will prepare themselves for the next cycle. So this process is, it continues, and the ovum waits over there for 28 days. For a period of 28 days, if there is no fertilization, so menstruation will occur. And if there is fertilization, so there will not be any menstruation, as no, there will not be any bursting out of the uterine wall. Okay. So, this is also called as a menstrual cycle, as it comes around every 28 days. It will come around, it will have around every 28 days. So that is called as menstrual cycle. Now, if a female is missing out of the menstrual cycle, if there is no menstrual, since once menstruation starts at the age of 11 to 12 years, so after that, when the menstruation starts, so after that, if there is no menstruation, if there is no menstrual, so it means that the female is pregnant. As we just saw, over here, that if the ovum is fertilized, then there will not be any menstruation. Okay, so if there is no menstruation, that means there is fertilization.
Sir, but at the early stages, sir, the menstrual cycle, they are irregular, right, sir? So we cannot
Yeah, so
exactly say
no,
which
no,
pregnant.
that's we are not talking of those early stages, which may be because of hormonal changes. It may be because of some of the hormonal changes. Now, in the case of female, this production of the ovule, it does not continue throughout their lifetime. It occurs, it starts from the age of 11 years and it continues to the age of around 45 to 50 years. The beginning age is 11 to 12 and the maximum age is 45 to 50 years. Okay, so this is the duration, reproductive age of the female. Within this period, only female can give birth to the young ones. After the age of 45 to 50 years, there will not be any release of the any ovum will not be released, and hence the female will not get fertilized. Also, during this period, after the age of 45 to 50 years, there will not be any menstruation. Okay. So understood? Any doubts up to here? So see, in your test for the exams on Sunday, you will have an objective test only up to this much, only up to the reproduction. We will not be giving out STDs. We will not be giving out birth control methods. So STDs and birth control methods, they will not be here. All other topics, they will be covered in your exam. So any doubts if you have regarding this, you can discuss, you can ask that. Rene, are there any doubts?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Anyone else?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Sir, you?
No.
Any doubts?
No, sir.
So from starting to end, this chapter should be clear. Starting from the reproduction, then we have the sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction. In the asexual reproduction, we have binary fission, multiple fission, then budding, regeneration, fragmentation, spore formation, and we have vegetative propagation. In the vegetative propagation, we have propagation through stem, propagation through leaf, and propagation through roots. In the artificial methods of reproduction, artificial methods of vegetative propagation, we have three methods: cutting, layering, and grafting. Okay. Then the last one, modern method, we saw as the tissue culture, which is applicable for the plants. Okay. Now, there is one more thing. We have to do cloning. In the next class, we will be doing cloning, and along with cloning, we need to do STDs and birth control methods. Okay, so no doubts. Okay, bye everyone. Good night.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Goodbye.